This hard-faced land is not where you'd expect to find rare architecture, but a surprise awaits visitors. The stave church of Urnes, one of the oldest wooden churches in the world, built in the 12th or 13th century, some say around 1130, Dark Age Christian art shows lingering pagan influences. It stands near the banks of the Norwegian Lustrafjord. Combining Celtic, Viking and Romanesque motifs, this church has been a World Heritage Site since 1979. Christianity spread through Norway early in the 11th century under Viking King Olaf II, Saint Olaf. He had churches raised in basilica layout, built wholly of wood. Wooden frames joined by boards and roofs were covered with shingles. Around 1,300 stave churches were built in Norway. Only 30 survive today. The Urnes style, so-called slim, stylized beasts woven into tight, sinuous patterns, is unforgettable. Animal heads are portrayed in profile. They have slender, almond-shaped eyes, and there are upwardly curled appendages on the noses and the necks. Some scholars call this the runic style. The portal and other details of the north wall of the present church, as well as the wall planks of the gables, are decorated in this distinctive way. Still hanging on a century or two into the Christian era, these wild images are relics of an earlier way of thinking. A more ancient vision fitted to a land of extremes. Wherever human communities cling precariously to untamable terrain like this, the world fills with gods and demons. Squabbling, fighting wars, vividly alive in the harsh land, the deep cold sea, the vast dark skies. It is hard to know if the craftsmen who built and decorated churches like this were publicly, openly pagan, simply hired as artisans by a church builder, or nominally Christian, but continuing the old religion in secret, or were sincere early Norwegian Christians, nonetheless deeply marked by the pagan beliefs and stories of some uncle or grandmother. Most likely Christians, whose imaginations had been shaped by centuries of pagan worship and myth. In whatever spirit these decorations were made, the Urnes church certainly shows a pre-Christian pagan craft tradition, and set of symbols had remained vigorous. The sweeping curves and confident hard edges have a cruel, austere beauty. They suggest a chaotic and frightening menagerie of godlike beasts, beast-like gods, and mighty pre-human heroes. An age lacking the New Testament stress on mercy and forgiveness, but rather fired by other values. Values like honor, cunning, and ferocious bravery in battle. As we can see, these panels depict a serpent-like creature filled with sinuous power. It curls, undulates upwards. At the lower end, some other kind of animal bites the snake. The usual story is that this portrays the eternal fight between good and evil. The animal is widely thought to be a stylized lion. In Christian iconography, a symbol of Christ, fighting evil symbolized by the snake, the Garden of Eden representation of Satan. The wooden church is made of meticulously carved panels, decorated with these motifs. Greyhound-like animals are encircled by small loops, but graceful snakes and other animals can also be seen. Sometimes winding tendrils replace the snakes. The creatures have elongated teardrop-shaped eyes which look forward. Their upper jaws curl upwards. Others suggest the decorations feature characters from Scandinavian mythology. Perhaps the intertwined snakes and dragons represent the end of the world, as recounted by the archaic Norse myth of Ragnarök. This is the great battle in which the mighty god Odin is bitten by the brother of the serpent Midgard. The tribes who first settled these harsh northern lands must have felt this was the furthest limit of the world. Myths like theirs might explain the strange creatures we see on this church from Dark Age Europe. For Ragnarök is the final battle at the end of time, the battle in which the gods themselves will meet their fate. Freya was the goddess of lust, sorcery, and gold. She was a former member of the Vanir, the old gods. When the war between the Vanir and the Aesir ended, Freya was one of the hostages exchanged to keep the truce. Freya was beautiful beyond all description. She loved poems and songs. Freya was also the goddess of fertility, war, and death. When she hovered over the earth, she scattered morning dew and sunlight. She shook spring flowers out of her hair. Freya's tears turned into gold, or sometimes into amber. You've left the big storms behind you now. You didn't ask then why you were born, where you came from, where you were going to. You were just there in the storm, in the fire. But it's possible to live in the everyday as well, in the grey, quiet day. Set potatoes, rake leaves, carry brushwood. There's so much to think about here in the world. One life is not enough for it all. After work, you can fry bacon and read Chinese poems. Old Laertes cut briars, dug around his fig trees, and let the heroes fight on at Troy.